Why it sucks to be born as a male anglerfish. Imagine being born just to fuse into your mate and slowly dissolve into a pair of testicles. That's your life. No adventures, no grand romances, just a one-way swim to your personal doom. You don't even get to eat on your own. Once you attach, she feeds you through her blood, like a very clingy and extremely fatal relationship. Eventually, you're nothing more than a biological USB stick full of sperm, permanently plugged in until she decides she's done with you. The deep sea, hellscape, the abyss. That time forgot thousands of feet below the ocean's surface, far beyond where sunlight can reach, lies a world so alien, so hostile, and so unimaginably vast that it might as well be another planet. Welcome to the deep sea. This is not the cozy, coral-filled shallows where clownfish dart through anemones. This is the abyss, a place of crushing pressure, freezing temperatures, eternal darkness, and bizarre life forms that defy our understanding of biology. And it's here in this otherworldly void that the story of the male anglerfish begins. But before we focus on that poor, tiny, tragically single-minded fish, we need to understand the setting, because evolution only makes sense in context. And the context here is a living hellscape. Welcome to the midnight zone. The ocean is divided into layers based on how much light reaches them. The top layer, the epipelagic zone, gets all the sunlight. It's where you find most fish, reefs, and ocean documentaries. But dive deeper and the light vanishes. At depths between 1,000 and 4,000 meters lies the bathypelagic zone, also known as the midnight zone. There's no sunlight here, none at all. Photosynthesis is impossible. The water is near freezing, hovering around 2 to 4 degrees Celsius, 35 to 39 degrees Fahrenheit. Pressure here is immense, reaching over 400 times what we experience at sea level. And yet, despite these conditions, life thrives. Thrives, but not in any way we'd call normal. Evolution unleashed, the bizarre becomes normal. In the deep sea, evolution has taken off its gloves. When there's no light, sight becomes optional. Many creatures here are blind. Others have eyes the size of dinner plates. Some emit light, bioluminescence, to attract prey or mates. Some look like monsters ripped from nightmares. Others look like clear blobs with organs floating inside. Food is scarce, and competition is brutal. The ecosystem runs on marine snow, a gentle, continuous fall of dead organisms, poop, and detritus from above. Occasionally, a whale carcass will sink to the bottom and feed an entire community for years. Creatures here are scavengers, predators, parasites, or all three. Deep sea loneliness. But there's one problem that haunts nearly every species down here: loneliness. In a space so vast and dark, simply finding another member of your species can be a statistical miracle. Imagine floating in the inky blackness, year after year, with no idea where you came from, no ability to communicate, and no one around you for hundreds of miles. Your biological clock is ticking, your body is slowly running out of energy, and your only mission, the reason you exist, is to find a mate. Most animals in the deep have adapted elaborate strategies to solve this. Some emit pheromones that drift through the water. Others light up like neon signs, hoping someone sees them. Some, like the vampire squid, seem to have abandoned mating almost entirely and reproduce slowly and sporadically. But none of them, none, have taken it as far as the male anglerfish. A hellscape of necessity. This entire ecosystem is built around desperation. The darkness demands extreme adaptation. The scarcity of food drives brutality. And the isolation has led to one of the most grotesque mating strategies in the animal kingdom. To understand why male anglerfish are born to suffer, dissolve, and die, we need to understand just how hostile this environment is. The deep sea doesn't offer second chances. If you fail to feed, you starve. If you fail to find a mate, your genetic line ends. You don't get to try again next year. You don't get to grow older and wiser. You get one shot, and you better make it count. That's where the male anglerfish comes in. He is quite literally born to fuse, born to die, born to be absorbed, born to become a pair of floating gonads attached to a monstrous queen of the abyss. And believe it or not, that's the best case scenario. Suku, meet the anglerfish biology and classification, forms. The anglerfish isn't just one fish. It's an entire group of nightmarish species belonging to the order Lophiiformes. This group includes more than 300 species spread across several families, with over 160 species found in the deep sea alone. While they vary widely in appearance, all anglerfish share a few key traits: an extremely large head relative to body size, an expansive mouth filled with sharp teeth, and, for most deep-sea species, a glowing lure used to attract prey. What makes anglerfish especially horrifying is that their bodies seem perfectly sculpted by evolution to exist in the abyss. They are not built for speed or agility. They don't chase prey or flee predators. Instead, they lie in wait, like biological traps. Their slow metabolism suits the energy-starved deep, and their grotesque shape is an adaptation to one purpose: to eat anything they can. The order Lophiiformes gets its name from the Greek lophos, meaning tuft or crest, a reference to the bizarre fleshy growth protruding from their heads. This growth, called the elysium, ends in a luminous bulb called the esca. It's this combination of bait and ambush that gives the anglerfish its name. The glowing lure, elysium and esca. The elysium is a modified dorsal spine, and it protrudes like a fishing rod from the top of the anglerfish's head. At the end of this spine is the esca, a bulbous organ that contains bioluminescent bacteria. These bacteria are not produced by the anglerfish itself. They're symbiotic organisms that emit light via a chemical reaction involving luciferin and luciferase. In the pitch black of the deep sea, the esca glows like a tiny star. This is the anglerfish's weapon, and its bait. Like a cruel magician, the female anglerfish waves her glowing lure in front of her face. Smaller fish, crustaceans, and even other predators mistake it for prey and swim closer. When they do, her enormous mouth snaps open with horrifying speed. Many anglerfish can swallow prey larger than themselves thanks to their distensible stomachs and jaws that open nearly 180 degrees. Predatory behavior. Ambush tactics. Anglerfish are classic ambush predators. They do not hunt. They wait. Their bodies are adapted for minimal movement. Some are covered in flabby, gelatinous flesh that minimizes their silhouette. Others have camouflage-like skin to blend in with the murky water. Their jaws are filled with inward-pointing teeth designed to prevent any escape once a victim has entered. Some anglerfish can go weeks or months without food, surviving off the energy of their last kill. What's more terrifying is that they do this all while hanging motionless, often upside down or sideways, with that eerie lure pulsing and flickering like a ghost light in the abyss. It's not hunting, it's haunting. Species diversity: 160 plus types of anglerfish. There are at least 160 known species of deep-sea anglerfish, and new ones are discovered almost yearly. Each species has its own variation of lure shape, jaw size, body form, and reproductive habits. Some notable species include Melanocetus johnsoni, the common black sea devil, often seen in viral deep-sea images; Cryptopsaurus quesii, a terrifying species known for hosting multiple fused males on a single female. Lasiognathus possesses a lure with bizarre tentacle-like appendages and bioluminescent tips. Some species have elaborate appendages, whisker-like fins, or additional glowing features. Others resemble floating sacs with massive mouths. In the deep sea, form follows function, and that function is to deceive, devour, and disappear. Females versus males. The ridiculous size gap. Now we arrive at the core tragedy of this saga. Female anglerfish are monstrous, and we mean that as a compliment. Some grow to the size of a football, others larger. They are the hunters, the lurers, the feeders. They dominate their environment. Male anglerfish? Not so much. In many species, the male is 1/10 or even 1/20th the size of the female. He is tiny, fragile, and undeveloped in almost every way, except for two things: a highly developed sense of smell and reproductive organs. He doesn't hunt, he doesn't eat. In fact, in many species, the male has no functional digestive system at all. His only job is to sniff out a female, latch onto her body, and begin the horrifying process of fusion, which we'll explore in full detail in part 3. But just consider this for now. Imagine a world where your entire existence revolves around finding a skyscraper-sized queen in total darkness. You are a bug. She is a fortress. You have no purpose other than to stick yourself to her side and slowly lose every part of your identity, except your testicles. It's not just tragic, it's existentially terrifying. 30. The male anglerfish's pathetic existence. Why the male is tiny, weak, and basically useless. Let's not sugarcoat this. If evolution were a schoolyard, the male anglerfish would be the scrawny kid who showed up without lunch, shoes, or hope. He's not just smaller than the female, he's barely more than an appendage in waiting. In most species of deep-sea anglerfish, the male is born underdeveloped. He lacks strong muscles. He has minimal sensory equipment. His digestive system, often incomplete or non-functional. His brain, largely dedicated to one task, locating a female. That's it. Everything else, hunting, survival, thinking, is sacrificed on the altar of mating. Why? Because nature has optimized him for biological desperation. In the deep sea, where mating opportunities are so rare they verge on myth, the male anglerfish's existence is a cosmic gamble. He doesn't need to be strong or smart. He just needs to find a female. If he doesn't, he dies. If he does, he dies, but a little more slowly and in service of her reproductive needs. His only purpose: find a female and fuse. The male anglerfish is essentially a living homing missile for pheromones. Upon hatching, his entire life becomes a countdown. He has just enough energy stored in his body to locate a female, not to explore, not to reproduce multiple times, just to find one female. And when he does, he doesn't mate in the traditional sense. He bites her, anywhere. Her side, her fin, her belly. It doesn't matter. His teeth latch on and start secreting enzymes that break down the tissue between their bodies, allowing their skin and circulatory systems to fuse. Let's be clear, this isn't affection. This is assimilation. Once he's attached, the male begins to dissolve. His eyes degenerate. His brain shrinks. His organs atrophy. Eventually, all that remains are his testes, which continue to function under her control. He becomes a permanent sperm sac, fused to her body like a parasitic growth. Some females carry multiple males, each reduced to a lump of reproductive tissue. The female can then selectively fertilize her eggs using whichever male's gonads she prefers. A biological harem with none of the drama. Anatomical adaptations for sniffing out females. Despite being almost useless in every other way, the male anglerfish has one superpower: an extremely sensitive olfactory system. He can detect the chemical signals, pheromones, released by a female from kilometers away in total darkness. This adaptation is vital. The male doesn't have time to wander. He can't afford to make mistakes. Guided by scent alone, he drifts through the abyss like a biological bloodhound, following microscopic trails that may, just maybe, lead him to a mate. His eyes in some species are reduced or even absent. His body is streamlined not for speed, but for endurance. His sense of smell, however, is finely tuned and disproportionately large compared to his brain size. All of this points to one function: mate detection. The pathetic search in the vast deep. Now imagine the task ahead of him. The deep ocean is unimaginably vast. Imagine trying to find one moving object, without lights, without sound, in an area the size of Europe. That's what the male anglerfish faces. He is born into a world with no landmarks, no guidance, no indication that females even exist. The only thing he has is scent, and even that might lead nowhere. Many males never find a mate. They drift, they weaken, they die unfused and forgotten. Those who succeed often do so by sheer luck. stumbling across a female who's not only of the same species, but also receptive. The odds are astronomically low, but when the cost of failure is extinction, evolution doubles down on the grotesque. The race against starvation and time. The male anglerfish is born with a biological clock ticking in his gut. He has a limited energy reserve, and he can't eat. He can't grow. If he doesn't find a mate in time, he will starve. This gives his life a cruel sense of urgency. Every moment is a gamble. Drift too far, and he misses his chance. Stay too close to home, and he may never encounter anyone. There's no food, no shelter, just darkness, cold, and the overwhelming pressure of time. If we anthropomorphize this experience, it would be like being born into a desert with no supplies and told you must find your soulmate before you collapse from dehydration. Except instead of dying alone, your best case scenario is being permanently fused to someone who doesn't need you alive, only fertile. Ivy, the horrifying mating ritual. When he finds her, the bite, the fusion, the doom. The moment a male anglerfish locates a female in the vast darkness of the deep sea, the most pivotal and final decision of his short life takes place. He doesn't court, he doesn't communicate, he simply bites. This is not a defensive bite, nor a playful nip. It is a biological lock. His specialized teeth hook into her skin and hold firm. This contact triggers a chain reaction of biochemical events that no other animal on Earth has evolved. One of the most extreme examples of sexual parasitism in the natural world. From that moment on, the male's independent life begins to end. Tissue fusion explained. Circulatory system merge. Once the male bites into the female's skin, his body begins secreting enzymes that dissolve the boundary between their tissues. In a matter of days, his skin and circulatory system begin to fuse with hers. Blood vessels merge. Oxygen and nutrients flow from the female's body into his. But this is no act of maternal generosity. It's the start of parasitic integration. He no longer feeds on his own. He no longer breathes for himself. He is now a biological extension of her body. The fusion is irreversible. This isn't symbiosis. The male has no bargaining power, no return to offer. The female gains a mobile on-demand source of sperm. He gains nothing, not even survival on his own. His autonomy is sacrificed in exchange for mere existence. Degeneration. The male dissolves. With the fusion complete, the male anglerfish begins to degenerate. His eyes atrophy and disappear. He'll never need to see again. His jaw muscles waste away. No need to bite or hunt. His brain shrinks dramatically. No need to think, search, or process. One by one, his internal organs shut down. His liver, his stomach, his intestines, all of it is obsolete. What remains is a vestigial husk. What continues to function are his testes, now plugged into the female's body like detachable reproductive batteries. His original body was designed for this very outcome, to fuse and disappear. The fact that he survives is misleading. What survives is only the part of him that benefits the female. Everything else is disposable. Only the gonads remain, like a living sperm drive. The final form of a male anglerfish is not so much a fish as it is a pair of living gonads. Once fused, his body is reduced to a tiny nub, a bulb of flesh with just enough biological machinery to generate sperm. The female can stimulate him hormonally when she's ready to reproduce, and his testes will deliver sperm into her bloodstream. She can then fertilize her eggs internally, using him as a sperm drive, a living plug-and-play device attached to her skin. Some females carry multiple males fused to different parts of their bodies. It's not uncommon to see a large female with 3, 4, or even 6 fused males, each reduced to testicular stubs. She doesn't need their affection. She doesn't even need their cooperation. She owns them, biologically and chemically. The female's perspective, managing multiple males. From the female's point of view, this system is efficient. Brutal, but efficient. In the deep sea, where mates are rare and distances vast, Storing your mate's body permanently ensures you're never alone when it's time to reproduce. She doesn't need to go searching. She doesn't need to wait. She just fertilizes her eggs as needed and moves on with her life, which includes feeding, luring prey, and avoiding predators. The fused males are no burden. They are silent, inert, and biologically useful. If she's lucky enough to collect multiple males over time, she effectively becomes the genetic gatekeeper of her territory. Each male fused to her body represents a different opportunity, different sperm, different combinations, different timing. It's genetic insurance. This strategy turns the typical mating game on its head. Instead of males competing for females, the female selects and integrates her mates permanently, and the male doesn't get a say. His contribution ends when he bites. From that point forward, he is nothing but flesh, grown, harvested, and maintained by her. She is the apex, not just of her ecosystem, but of her own reproductive network. V. Evolutionary justification. Why this system evolved: energy conservation and low encounter rates. In the crushing depths of the ocean, life doesn't follow the same rules as it does on the surface. Resources are scarce, movement is costly, and finding a mate is like winning the biological lottery. Anglerfish exist in a world where sheer chance governs reproduction. With population densities so low, the odds of two individuals meeting naturally are astronomically slim. Evolution had to find a workaround, and it did. Through the bizarre innovation of sexual parasitism, it ensured that once a male finds a female, he'll never have to find one again. He'll never leave her side, literally. This parasitic strategy is not an accident. It's an answer to one of the most profound challenges in the deep sea. How do you make sure reproduction happens when your species members are few, far between, and practically invisible in the dark? Conserving energy is key. A male that fuses to a female doesn't have to swim endlessly, burn calories, or even feed. He becomes a passive reproductive organ, an investment that pays off in reproductive certainty. Reproductive success versus individual survival. Evolution doesn't care about the survival of individuals. It only rewards traits that improve the success of genes being passed on. For the male anglerfish, his genetic legacy is secure once he's fused and functional. His personal autonomy, longevity, or comfort, irrelevant. His survival matters only as far as he can deliver sperm when the female needs it. From the perspective of evolutionary fitness, the male is a one-use biological delivery system, disposable, single purpose. If it works, it sticks around. To us, this is tragic, but to nature, it's brutally efficient. The male doesn't get a second chance, and he doesn't need one. Extreme sexual dimorphism. Explain sexual dimorphism, and where the two sexes of a species differ in size or appearance, is common in the animal kingdom. But in anglerfish, it reaches absurd extremes. Female anglerfish can be up to 60 times larger than males. They are the predators, the ones with the lures, the ones doing the hunting. Males, they're little more than sperm-seeking missiles. Why such disparity? Because females carry the burden of survival, growth, and reproduction. They need energy, camouflage, weaponry, and the iconic bioluminescent lure. Males, on the other hand, are optimized for one task: finding a female. There's no evolutionary incentive for a male to grow big. He doesn't need to hunt, defend, or raise offspring. Once he finds a female, his role ends, biologically and physically. Comparison with other weird mating systems. Anglerfish aren't the only species to explore radical mating strategies. Let's look at some other biological oddities that make human relationships seem downright normal. Bonellia viridis, the green spoon worm. In this species, whether you become male or female depends on where you land after birth. A larva that lands on the ocean floor grows into a large green female, but a larva that lands on a female becomes a tiny parasitic male, living inside her body, providing sperm, and doing nothing else. Sound familiar? This kind of environmentally determined sex shows how far evolution will go to guarantee reproduction in sparse environments. Bedbugs, traumatic insemination. Male bedbugs don't even use the female reproductive tract. Instead, they stab their penis through the female's abdomen and inject sperm directly into her body cavity. It's called traumatic insemination, and it's as awful as it sounds. Females have evolved special structures to minimize damage, but it's still dangerous, painful, and often deadly. Why did this evolve? Because it bypasses female choice and speeds up reproduction. Brutal, efficient, deeply disturbing. Anglerfish, the gold medalists of parasitic mating. Compared to these strategies, male anglerfish are the undisputed kings of evolutionary self-sacrifice. Bonellia males still have organs. Bedbug males still retain their identities. Male anglerfish, they dissolve. When you fuse into your mate and become nothing more than a fertilization gland, you've reached the apex of reproductive specialization. It's extreme sexual dimorphism dialed up to 11. It's not romance, it's biological integration. 6. Philosophical and ethical exploration. Is this still life? If we define life as the capacity to grow, respond to stimuli, and reproduce, then the male anglerfish technically qualifies. But philosophically, it's murky. The male anglerfish is born, searches, fuses, and dissolves. At some point in this sequence, he stops being a free-living creature and becomes an organ. Is he still alive in any meaningful sense? Does life require autonomy, conscious experience, purpose beyond reproduction? The male anglerfish challenges all of these assumptions. It raises a question that's hard to answer without confronting our own discomfort. Can something be alive and yet functionally dead? What is identity if you're just sperm? When the male fuses into the female and begins to dissolve, what happens to his sense of self, if he ever had one? His brain and nervous system deteriorate. His organs vanish. He loses everything except the testicles. There's no capacity for independent thought or action. He is no longer he. From a philosophical standpoint, this strips the male of everything we associate with identity: autonomy, memory, awareness, even physical form. He becomes a biological accessory, no different than a kidney or a gland. He has no desires, no consciousness, and no control over his fate. If a being loses every part of its body and mind, except its reproductive function, can it still be said to exist as an individual? The ethics of anthropomorphizing evolution. When we say it sucks to be a male anglerfish, we are projecting human emotions onto a system that is utterly indifferent to them. Evolution isn't cruel. It's not even aware. It's just selection pressure over time. The male anglerfish isn't suffering. He has no concept of injustice. He doesn't know what he's missing. In fact, he probably doesn't know anything at all. So is it fair to judge this system as horrifying? Maybe not, but it's deeply human to do so. We see this bizarre mating system and recoil because we imagine ourselves in that position. We imagine pain, humiliation, helplessness. But evolution doesn't deal in narratives, it deals in outcomes. Still, there's value in anthropomorphizing, not because it helps us understand the anglerfish, but because it forces us to confront our own assumptions about life, value, and identity. Absurdity versus brilliance of nature. There's something almost comically absurd about the male anglerfish's fate. Born just to sniff out a mate, fuse with her flesh, and die in silence. It sounds like a tragic metaphor from a science fiction novel. And yet, it works. Nature is filled with systems that, by human standards, seem perverse, cruel, or ridiculous. But nature isn't writing poetry. It's solving problems. The anglerfish mating system is not a mistake. It's a brilliant, terrifying, biologically optimized solution to one of the hardest problems in the deep sea. How do you guarantee reproduction when you might never meet another of your kind? Absurdity and brilliance are two sides of the same coin. What looks like a dystopian nightmare to us is a cold, effective strategy to nature. The male anglerfish doesn't know it sucks to be him, but we do, and maybe that's the real horror. 7. Related animal nightmares, flatworms and penis fencing. In some species of flatworms, sex is a violent competition. They are hermaphrodites, meaning each individual has both male and female reproductive organs. But when two flatworms meet, neither wants to be the female, because producing eggs is more energetically expensive. So what do? They fight. With their twin penises, they engage in a duel known as penis fencing. The goal? To stab the other and inject sperm while avoiding being stabbed themselves. The winner becomes the father. The loser is forced to become the mother. That's right. They literally sword fight with their genitals over who gets stuck with motherhood. It's simultaneously hilarious, horrifying, and evolutionary genius. Spiders and sexual cannibalism. Many spider species have turned mating into a life-or-death affair, mostly for the male. In species like the black widow or redback, the female is significantly larger and often eats the male after or even during copulation. Sometimes the male sacrifices himself intentionally, flipping into her fangs to increase his chances of paternity. The logic? If he dies during mating, she might be too full or busy digesting to mate with anyone else. In evolutionary terms, it's a kamikaze mission. Die once, father many. Insects with traumatic insemination. As mentioned earlier, bedbugs take sexual violence to another level. Males stab females through the abdomen to deliver sperm. This bypasses traditional mating organs and introduces sperm into the body cavity. This strategy evolved as a way to override female mating resistance. It's not just painful, it causes scarring, infection, and early death in females. Females evolved countermeasures like a spermallage, a specialized structure to reduce injury, but it's still brutal. This is the dark side of the evolutionary arms race, when survival of the fittest becomes survival of the stabbiest. Sea creatures with disposable penises. The deep-sea argonaut, a relative of the octopus, has a unique and unsettling approach to reproduction. The male detaches his hectocotylus, a modified arm that carries sperm, and launches it at the female. That's right, he detaches his sex arm, flings it across the ocean, and hopes it hits the target. Some early researchers who discovered these detached arms thought they were parasites. Nope, just flying genitalia. Another contender, the sea slug. Many species of sea slugs are simultaneous hermaphrodites and have evolved the ability to discard their penis after mating, like a one-use plastic utensil. But don't worry, it regrows in about 24 hours. Why male anglerfish still win the worst life prize? Despite the grim tales of penis swords, cannibalism, abdominal stabbing, and disposable genitals, the male anglerfish still takes the crown. Flatworms duel, but they live. Spiders may die, but at least they enjoy a meal or two. Bedbugs are horrific, but they keep their identity. Argonauts lose a penis, not their entire body. Only the male anglerfish completely dissolves into his mate. He loses everything, organs, brain, identity, and becomes a pair of gonads embedded in her flesh. There is no self left, no second chance, no agency. He doesn't even die with dignity. He fades into biological irrelevance. If evolution is a competition to see who can sacrifice more for reproduction, the male anglerfish is the undisputed, undefeated champion of tragic devotion. In the end, the male anglerfish's story isn't a love story. It's a cautionary tale about what happens when evolution decides you're more useful as an organ than as an animal.